Good morning on this day after the resurrection, this Easter Monday. I've never been one to call it Easter for a lot of reasons. That's actually after the goddess Astarte, which is, of course, not Christian. But despite the fact that there seem to be, some contrary things in Christianity to its basic message. Despite what I've said all along, its basic message is the fruit of a very good tree. Again, good morning, everyone. Today is the 22nd of April, 2019. I'm Roy Potter, and this is the Potter Expositor. I had to fight with myself a little bit this morning to do this. I usually do it on Tuesdays or Thursdays, although, there are exceptions to that. By the way, the chat should be on. Let me welcome you as you come in. Let me double check and make sure. Yeah, it's on. So hello as you come in. I'm not going to be there right now. I'm going to watch my settings because, as usual, we're having some internet problems here and some other things. Hopefully the sound, the volume is okay. It's not modulating too much, and you can hear. Looks like everything's just fine. If I have moderators there, thank you for coming. You know who you are. Kay Smalls, Liza Jean Williams, and Roosevelt. And there's another one I keep promising to make, and I gotta see. I'm afraid to be able to do that. Today's a solemn day. As you can see, I'm wearing black. I do that when things are particularly bad, even with all the other good news that we've had, kind of. Like I said, I had a difficult time deciding whether I should do this morning. And one of the signs of the times that tells us how wicked, how evil things are is when people love and make lies. And for the last, it's been going on for decades. And I've talked about it ad infinitum, about our government system, our media, even certain aspects of Christianity. But I'm not going to focus on that part. Like I said, by and large, the fruits are very good there. I've talked about some of the problems in traditional Christianity and why I think a lot of things that are happening is because we've opened our doors to the evil side under some idea that, even though we first criticize something, the problem is, and this is kind of a different take on how you normally say this, we move from criticism or concern to tolerance because we want to be Christ-like, and we don't even really know what that is. Then we move on to acceptance, and then we move on to participation. And this is a psychological progression that happens all the time. And it's been used against us because of our open society. We're the open society, not Soros's things. Because of our beliefs in liberty and allowing people freedom of conscience and all of these types of things. It's been used against us. And we refuse to call a bad fruit when we see it, even when it disguises itself. When a bank robber puts on a mask and comes in to mask his real intent and who he is, his intent is by his actions, no matter if he dresses like a nun or if he dresses like Jesus Christ. His intentions, what his fruits are, proves who he is. But we want to shroud our natural tendency to judge a situation. We want to rein that in because some world leader or Congress or somebody like the SPLC tells us that we have to. And in fact, we should have a revulsion in our guts. And because we don't, because that has been trained out of us by and large, we're seeing, and this was my point last week when I talked about the problem with Christianity and Notre Dame and all that, that we've accepted those things that can destroy us, which God has no intention of us accepting and certainly not participating in. So, like I say, I labeled this "Those Who Love and Make a Lie," and that's what we have. We have people. Look what they've done to President Trump, and I criticize President Trump. I'm suspicious of some of the things that he does, and more importantly, what he doesn't do. But I'm not here to tramp on Trump today either. But every institution that I've had anything to do with in my life has betrayed me, and they have betrayed you. By their fruits you shall know them. It doesn't matter what their mouth speaks, it's what their actions prove. And when you see violence and when you see hatred, real hatred, I'm not talking about the PC stuff about, oh, I don't like, to be around homosexuals. That should be your right not to have to associate with. You have a right to association, which also means you have a right not to associate. Like I said, I wasn't sure I was going to do this today. You might be wondering what's in the lower left-hand corner of my window. Of course, I'm going to keep Colonel Jeff Cooper up here for a long time, because the Second Amendment is, other than God, is our last hope. And I'll just say it out in the open. The First and Second Amendments are our last hope. Not politicians, not law enforcement, certainly not the bad example FBI that's shown its true colors over the last few years. Thank God President Trump did that, because it's true. The FBI is the most disgusting law enforcement agency in the world. I don't care what Sean Hannity or anybody else says. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes too. Look, and they keep saying, "Oh, it's just the upper echelons of the FBI." I read a thing a few videos back about the 40 FBI agents that took part in this thing against Trump, and then there are FBI agents. Look what they did to the Bundys and to the Hammonds. Of course, that was also with some other three-letter agencies, the BLM, etc., EPA, whatever. Our law enforcement don't abide by the laws themselves. There is a two-tier justice system in the United States. And I'm going to talk about an example of that here in a few minutes. It just happened over the last few days. So they love and make lies. It's a sign of a demon, ladies and gentlemen, and we have to be able to have the courage to put this back in the face of these people and declare them such. Everybody from Dianne Feinstein and Schumer and Pelosi and Ocasio-Cortez and Tlaib and Omar. Why am I naming these people? Because they're shoving it in our face, saying, you can't stop us because we've neutered you. It's not just that we've taken a sword out of your hand. We've confused you to such an extent. We've told you so many truths that now we can lie to you. And you don't know the difference because you have lost your core. The key is by their fruits you will know them, no matter what else they say. So, I'm pontificating, and that's really what this is going to be, even though we're going to get into some specifics. The situation in Sri Lanka and all of the attacks on Christianity in the world today are being fomented by the very people you think wouldn't do it. It's like I said in one of my last videos. They may not be the people in charge may not be pulling the trigger, but they're handing the gun and ammunition to the people to conduct these things. And I say that it doesn't necessarily have to be literal. It can be the suggestions. It can be using their system against them as much as against us. It's because we have lost knowing about the fruits. And we have, well, I'll get there in a minute. I'm getting off my track here. So what's in the lower left-hand corner? Well, this is one of the reasons why I decided to go on today. About a year ago, when I was calling Trump out again. I was saying some things that he needed to do. And I don't want to give all the details about this because, well, it's just best that I don't. But let me show you what I got. And when I see this, when I saw this, and I thought about it last night. It's why I remember I said I don't want to do this anymore. I really don't. And then, I see some progress, and then we take a couple steps back, and then I'm on top of it again. I'm not a yes man. I'm not going to get in front of somebody and tell them what they want to hear, because I have more concern about the constitutional republic and about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and about the perfect law of liberty than I do any man. I judge them how they stand in relation to the perfect law of liberty, and I say that instead of God, because I consider God to be the perfect example of liberty. So how a person stands with the perfect law of liberty and and in our country, the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights is how I deal with them. I'm not going to sit there and give them accolades when they don't deserve it. I'm not a cult of personality worshiper. I know the difference between right and wrong, and I know where we're supposed to be, and I also know why we're not there. But when I feel like giving up, I'm reminded that even a lowly person like me has made a difference, and that's incredible, actually. No matter how small or how small you think your contribution is, that it's not big enough, some contribution is worth the widow's mite, if you know that story. You might be giving a widow's mite in the story of Jesus, the lady who gave the widow's mite, and the Pharisees made fun of her, but the point was she gave all she had. It was a small amount, but compared to what the Pharisees had, she was giving a fortune. A mite's less than what a penny is today. So when we make these small contributions, if we're making the very best that we can, it makes a difference. So I will remain critical of Trump when he doesn't do according to his oath of office, or what he should understand about the Constitution and the direction our country should take, or his failure to take action, let's put it that, and his overt actions, like the red flag laws and things like that, civil asset forfeiture. But, as my Republican insider says, and I realize this, he's had a huge opposition force against him. I don't know if this has been a trick played on us or not. Deep down, I wonder, and I've talked to people about if Trump is actually just a placebo of some sort, so that they can get in 5G, and they can get in the panopticon, and they can get in vaccinations, they can get in through the border, and they can take away our weapons, whatever, all of those things. But deep down inside, I don't believe it. But I am watching the fruits. So, in all of this internal, sorry, it's been an emotional weekend. In all of this consternation, the scriptures say you need to confess Jesus, and people have different ways of doing that. If you confess Jesus before men, he will confess you before God. And there's truth to that. But what is Jesus? Well, I'm not here to get into that discussion today. I'm just going to tell you, as I've said before, we're suffering the things that we are because we have not abided by the basic principles, despite what traditional Christianity thinks. I don't have a problem with the Notre Dame Cathedral. I don't have a problem with church buildings. I don't have a problem with the statue of the Virgin Mary. I'm not going to deal with it. By the way, I'm still officially Catholic. Most of you, I think I've told you about that before. Officially, I'm still Catholic. I was baptized when I was 12. Took communion and all that. Was an altar boy. Then I, went over to other religions in my search. But the Catholics never excommunicated me. I remember talking to a priest, and this was after a lot of things became known about me. It was a priest in Murray, Utah, in the parish there. He was a good friend of mine, and we sat down and we talked about all sorts of things. And he said, "You're still with us," after everybody else threw me out. I said, really? Anyway, we had some other discussions, but the point of all this is that we can make a difference even if it's small. So I was told, this was a year ago, when I had been making a lot of posts about that time. I had turned on Q for good reason. And I had been very critical of some things Trump wasn't doing, some things he was, but I was very open about it. And I was told, I got a DM, a direct message on my Twitter account from an organization apparently fairly close to Trump, and it told me, you know, Roy, the president's hearing you. And I laughed about it. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. Yeah, right. Well, then this happened. Let me show you this. And if my little efforts brought this about, then we all need to consider that we need to stand up and make a noise, and no matter how small the difference is, it will make some type of a difference, for good or for bad, for good or for evil. Now, this is probably a form letter. You know, I'm sure he didn't have time to sit down and, you know, say all the things he would like to. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's gotten a letter like this. But that is his signature. It's not a stamp. He actually held that paper in his hand and signed it. Humbling. It is. So, no matter what we do, we make a difference in the spiritual realm, whether for good or for evil, that's reflected here as well. And President Trump was kind enough. Like I said, I'd like to tell you the whole story about this. I actually know the backstory of it. But I'll just tell you that, like I said, that somebody said that President Trump had noticed some of my YouTube videos for various reasons. And I didn't believe it. And then, like I said, this. So even if it's a form letter or whatever, the point is that, and I hope a lot of people get similar ones who have gone out there and tried to make a difference. That's a little hard to see, and I apologize for that. It's not the best that it could be. Let me see if I might be able to enlarge the print a little bit. Let me see if I can for you here. I suppose I can put the White House seal up a little bit. So there it is. See if you can read that. All right. Well, I don't want to belabor the point, but like I said, it's probably a form letter of some sort, maybe with a tweak here or there. But that is a signature. It is from the White House. Pretty amazing, I must say. I'll put it over here in the corner for now. Okay. So, President Trump, I want to thank you for that. I know you've had a hell of a fight. You know, I know very few people that have been accused falsely and as violently and as virulently as you have. I received a little bit of it in my early days, and even now, when I first came on YouTube and the thing with the Boston bombing and all that, oh, it was brutal. I can't even tell you all the things that happened. And certainly after Bundy Ranch. Americans can't dare stand up to this corrupt government because of the rule of law, but they violate it. The leaders and the law enforcement agencies and the intelligence agencies and the Congress, et cetera, they violate the rule of law every single minute of every single day. So President Trump has received a terrible attack on his person, his personal life, his family, his businesses, and I recognize all that. But President Trump, despite you're one of the most, let's see, how can I say this? Despised and rejected of men, you still have a good, strong following. Most important thing for you to do, of course, is to follow God. And the second most important thing is to stand by the oath that you took to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and its inviolate Bill of Rights. You know, David, a lot of people say, oh, right, he's got all these associations with Israel. And I talk about the problem with that, okay? I do. I would rather, right now, of course, as I said, going and making these alliances with Russia would be very difficult because even though Hillary Clinton can do it, of course, nobody's going after her. But to try to ensure real peace and to keep us from killing each other and making mankind extinct, his efforts to go down that road are stopped by the military-industrial complex, and President Eisenhower told us that was going to happen. They're evil people there, ladies and gentlemen. So President Trump tried to go down those roads, and he's been stopped, and I recognize that. But President Trump, you need to go after them, and I'm going to play a little clip here in just a minute that explains that in a very short way. But it's okay to deal with Israel. I mean, they have a right to exist. I don't believe all the dogma surrounding the state of Israel and what it's supposed to be, and there are very good reasons not to believe it. But as an ally on the world stage, I can understand that. For people who want to find fault with Trump cozying up to Israel, and I'm not saying I like it, and I still stick by the fact that not having dual citizenship is an important law that we should have to hold office in the United States at any level of government. Dual citizenship is, you can't serve two masters. You can hate one and serve the other, or despise one. You know how that goes. So I very much disagree with having dual citizenship and holding office in the U.S., no matter what country the other citizenship is in. But King David, when King Saul, remember, King Saul's kind of like, I use these things for principles. Okay, so you can say, well, you said that Trump was acting like Saul in this. Look at the principle here. Saul could be the United States Congress now, okay? The IC, whatever. They don't like the fact that Trump got into power. Remember, Saul was jealous of David because the prophet Samuel anointed David to be king, and Saul felt to take Saul's place when Saul went away, by his own hand, actually. But Saul was jealous of this outsider that was coming in. See how you can use these stories to understand principles? So David, his life was threatened. In other words, the Congress and the IC and the Democratic Party and the mainstream media, the Saul of our day, who have departed from the truth. And yes, they have. They've departed from God. They've departed from the truth. The Constitution of the United States, they oppose it. Just like Saul opposed God and stood against him. So what did David have to do? Do you remember what he did? Yes, he went out in the wilderness, but guess whose help he sought? I should go to the chat, but I'll ask these rhetorical questions. You remember David and Goliath? Goliath was the super soldier of what nation? The Philistines. So David had fought against the Philistines, killed their super warrior, cut his head off, did it with a rock and then cut his head off. So who did David flee to when the government of his day was despising and rejecting him and calling him names and seeking to destroy him and his family and coming up with false witness? Who did he go to? Yes, the Philistines. So in my estimation, And there's a lot of ways to look at this. I've heard all kinds of explanations. But making good with Israel wasn't a bad move politically. It would be a lot like David. I don't think Trump considers Israel to be, an adversary like the Philistines were to ancient Israel. But you see the principle involved here. He needed a powerful ally because he certainly as hell wasn't getting it from anybody in our country that should have been there by his side, giving him the right advice in his office. Instead, they subverted him. Even the people in his own cabinet, in his own administration, they subverted him. And they fought him every inch of the way, tooth and toenail, leaked information, fought against him openly, sought to harm him and his family. Those people, it was like the story of the second lieutenant I told you about. A second lieutenant comes in not knowing anything. He depends upon the NCOs and the enlisted people that know their jobs to teach him. Well, Trump didn't have that, and I've said it before. I still don't excuse him for failing to stand up to them. But he's looking for allies. So I hope he considers me one, even though I'm going to tell him what I think. I'm not going to shake my head and agree with him because he said it. I'm going to say, wait a minute. I was not a yes man in the Army. I was not a yes man on the police department. I was never a yes man in corporate America. If you don't want to hear what I have to say, don't ask me. And in this situation, I'm going to say it whether you ask me or not. The survival and the safety of the constitutional republic, what little of it we have left, is dependent upon us speaking truth to power. And if we fail to do so, we are as guilty as those who perpetrate it, because silence is agreement. So it's been a hard road for Trump, and as you can see now with the collusion situation being, over with, they're going to push it still because these are demons. The war in heaven was very similar to what you're seeing right here, right now. Satan is the accuser of the brethren, and that's what these people are doing. Everybody from Nadler and Pelosi and on down to Swalwell to Brennan to Obama's being silent, but Trump needs to go after these people, and I know Obama should be an untouchable because he was a president, but he really needs to be taken down. He really does. He needs to be cast out with all of his demons. Literally cast out. On that note, you know that I've talked a lot about headlines with a voice. She goes by the pseudonym Nancy Morgan Hart, and if you don't know who she was, look her up on Google. It's a historical figure. But this lady on Headlines with a Voice puts out very succinct information, very, very good. Please go and subscribe to her channel. She did. I requested it of her, and she granted that to me that I can use her material when I see that it's a good. I could use her material all the time. As a matter of fact, I could just tell you to go listen to her and just not do this at all. To be frank, because she's so good. Let me play this for you because it's really. You see a lot of people now saying, "Trump, you need to go after these people. Barr, you need to go after these people." Okay, no quarter. Even now, they won't give it to us. And it's not a point of vengeance. It's a point of justice. Judge Jeanine Pirro talks about it. Lou Dobbs talks about it. Everybody who understands what happened here, except those who have bought in to hate Trump because the leftist Marxists in the IC and in the media tell them to. I mean, you might not like Trump, and that's okay. I'm not telling you have to like him. But to see what's happened to him, whether it was orchestrated, whether he agreed to it or not, as some sort of a drama, of a play, of a fooling us or whatever, it's still wrong. Let me play this for you, okay? Here we go.
Just as I've been saying all along, The harassment of the president will never end until all of the FISAs and the 302s are unredacted and made public. Rout out the individuals at state and justice that are actively suppressing the evidence of collusion and election manipulation between Hillary Clinton, then Vice President Joe Biden, and corrupt foreign actors that Ukrainian officials have been attempting to share with the DOJ for over a year. Make public Robert Mueller's role in the Saudi Russia-owned Gulf tanker operation at our shipping terminals in Port Canaveral and Delaware. If the American people knew what Gulf tanker has been bringing into our country through Port Canaveral? And what about the gag order placed on the FBI asset with information regarding the Uranium One deal? Release all the texts unredacted between Page and Strzok. Obama, Clinton, Holder, Lynch, Comey, Brennan, Rosenstein, Clapper, all of them must be held accountable. Until that happens, nothing's going to change. In fact, it looks like, from the headlines anyway, that it's getting worse. Fix election fraud. Shutter the CIA. Stop supporting the erosion of our Second Amendment. Just leave the Second Amendment alone. Bring back all those loyal officers that the last administration purged. Then start cleaning house. And for the love of God, shelf the 5G project. For Headlines with a Voice, this is Nancy Morgan Hart.
I could not say it any better. Please subscribe to her channel, and the link is in the description box below to that particular video. But from that, you can find her YouTube site as well. She also has a blog, I believe. Good information, hits the target, doesn't become verbose like yours truly does. But of course, this is a commentary program and a visit. We kind of use it that way. Okay. Sri Lanka. That's again why I'm wearing black today. Ladies and gentlemen, when you don't know history, you're damned to repeat it. And that's what's happening here. You know, there was an Islamic invasion of the world. And I'm not going to go through all the history. We're not told the truth about the Crusades. And now I look back on my time in public schools, and I realize that this entire situation has been orchestrated many years ago by the powers that be. They haven't told us the truth for so long. Skewed just enough that you don't get the big picture. I've told you that Islam is a creation to take what Muhammad and his followers, primarily his followers, thought were the good parts of the Talmud and the good parts of Christianity and meld them together for control purposes. And I'm not going to go through the whole history here. The purpose of it was political domination, not a religious system. And we have a problem in the United States now because when a religion... And you know, the First Amendment, the idea of religious freedom is extremely important, and that you don't have to take any particular oath of religious conduct to hold office in the United States, which would lend also to possibly the negatives. But this is where the enemy is using our goodness against us, and we have to realize it. We have to open our eyes and understand. I'm not saying that everybody who is in Islam is bad, but you notice that there are only a couple of voices out there in Islam that are condemning these horrible, murderous acts. As everybody's pointed out, I don't need to do it, but one guy, and we think it was obviously a planned event, but one guy shoots up a mosque in New Zealand. They take away guns. Everybody turns to Islam. They're doing the prayers every day, forcing that religion on everybody else. If you go read the Quran, you're going to find out some things, okay? And this is where it's not a religion, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. The United States intelligence apparatus and the president and all of that, how do they determine who is a terrorist and who isn't? Well, now if you're a Christian, you're considered a domestic terrorist, or if you stand for the Constitution. But the basic principle was, if you're trying to influence, first of all, if your founding documents state on the surface what your intent is, you can pretty well make a judgment call that this thing is a terrorist organization or a political organization of some sort. When the government, when the FBI, as Dan Bongino says, investigates somebody, they look at some of their founding documents, some of the things that they write to find out a little about them. And if they're in there saying, kill this person, kill that person, go after this group of people, go after that group of people, doesn't even the SPLC look at things like, they always talk about white nationalists, but they're not talking about Islam. They'll bring up white nationalists. Oh, he wrote this information. He had information from Alex Jones in his in his computer. Or he listened to Roy Potter, right? Those do build information and sometimes are evidence. They can be used incorrectly, as the FBI has done more than once. We're going to talk about that today. But Islam, by its nature, despite the fact that good people are in there trying to find anytime you worship the supreme being of the universe, no matter how you view him, it's good for you. But it also makes you susceptible to a lie. I mentioned one day that if you hear a voice in your head today, it's probably, it could be God, but you better know how to test it. And if you don't, and you just believe because it's there, that now you're some, anointed being that can pronounce whatever God wants, what you think God is, you could be used for evil because you don't know the fruits. You don't know the fruits of God's appearance to you. You just assume because it's a voice in your head. A lot of these people that convert to religious systems, and I've done it myself, so I know, you get these feelings of euphoria, of happiness, of like you're opening up, because trying to understand God is a good thing. You'll never do it by the very nature of it. But your attempt to approach God, because what does he say? If you come nigh unto me, I will come nigh unto you. But if you don't understand the laws of God, then you can cross the line. And as Jesus said, they will kill you and think they do God a service because they've gone too far. The governments will do that anyway. But I'm talking about these people that are in Islam that are converted to it. In the Quran and in the Hadith, it plainly states violence against those who do not accept Islam. I'm not going to go through a whole list of the things. I could do it for you. But, I don't know how efficacious it would be at this point. Islam is not a religion. Islam is a political system that hides behind religion to conquer. They did it in medieval times, and the Crusades were the result. And they continue it today. Like I said, only a few well-known Islamic leaders are condemning this part of Islam when it happens. Islam is a tool of the New World Order and our deep state. And it's being used against us because of our belief that people's religious systems need to be honored. We've opened our doors so wide that we let our enemy come in under the guise of religious freedom. I could expound on this all day, but I think you get my point. They are to do jihad. Jihad is Islam. To destroy everything that does not submit to Islam, be it Sunni, Shiite, Wahhabist, Salafist, doesn't matter. It says in their own founding scriptures, Holy Writ, to destroy anything that won't come into Islam. Tax it first and then destroy it. Or destroy it if it won't even be taxed. There's nothing in the Bible like that, or in any other, well, it's not in Buddhism, it's not in Hinduism, certainly not in Christianity. There are wars in the Bible, there are things like that, but it's based not on a belief of destruction. It's based on, like, pedophilia, which, by the way, is okay in Islam. Pedophilia is okay in it. It's not in the Bible. As a matter of fact, Isaiah condemns it soundly. Islam is going... The attack in Sri Lanka, all those people. And it's going to get worse, ladies and gentlemen. The more we open our doors to this. You know, I go around and I see Islamic people now working in retail stores and other places. Sometimes the ignorant are your worst enemy. It's just a matter of time. I'll probably get thrown off of YouTube for this. Actually, probably not. The government the IC likes to keep their finger on what my thoughts are. Notre Dame, you know, I would not be a bit surprised if that wasn't a job done by Macron and the EU. Of course, they knew that the possibility of it being, that we would think of the possibility of it being Islamic terrorism. I'm going to call it that. Not Islamic extremism, Islamic terrorism. That we would bring that up anyway. But it wouldn't be a bit surprising, especially now that we see that they're talking about rebuilding it to be a multicultural religious center. Oh, well, that's real nice, isn't it? So they're going to destroy Christian Europe even further. Again, I have some problems with traditional Christianity and what its tenets are, but not the basics of love thy neighbor as thyself. Love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, might, mind, and strength. You see those things. You know, the Good Samaritan ideas and all of that. There are some other problems in how they view other supposed commandments or laws. They've twisted those around. But the basic tenets brought the world a long way. It can make a difference in your life. When that door opens and you see, you know, how to treat others in a godly manner and how to repent of the bad things that you've done, it can change you, despite the other things that have been placed in there to confuse you. Overall, it's a good system. Islam is just the reverse. So, interesting, isn't it, that Islam says that it hates Satan? Well, how come they didn't attack the Louvre? How come they don't attack, and I'm not telling them to do this. It's just, all right, so I'm not calling for violence against the IRS. But I'm saying, why don't they go against the funding mechanism of the United States government? The one that everybody knows about. There are others. Why don't they go against the satanic churches? Do you know what the crescent and means in Islam? Do you know what it really means? Do you know what the symbol of Islam really means? Talk about idolatry. Having a symbol of your faith, a cross, is not idolatry. It's a symbol of your faith. It's a symbol of who you are, like a flag. The destruction of Christian churches by Islam and by the New World Order and the EU and all those people that are behind them is to attack Christianity. It is to attack the basic tenets so that we will give them up under threat of death. God bless those poor people that suffered that horrific attack in Sri Lanka. Oh no, that wasn't Islamic terrorism. There's only white supremacist terrorism, and etc. Those who love and make a lie. So what do we have here? And I'm sorry I'm rambling on, but these are important things. So in a religion, what is it that we look for to decide whether or not it's actually a religious movement or a political movement with the purpose of trying to conquer? This is a delineator. What God's presenting us with is, he gave us the opportunity to understand what perfect law of liberty is. But we have to know how to divide the Word of God. You even have to know how to rightly divide the Word of God. It says that. But you also need to be able to rightly divide truth and error, and good and evil, and even more specifically the good, what you consider the good, things that are in there that are not. It's a refiner's fire, as the scripture calls it, a fuller's soap. What we are learning is that just because you say you're religious doesn't mean that you are, or that you aren't a danger to your fellow man. By their fruits you will know them. And in that delineator, when we see that, for instance, this horrible thing in Sri Lanka, or the burning of the churches, the attacks on Christians, whatever, you look at all that, and if they will not demand that the people that are doing that, if their own religion will not demand that those people stop and that they be sanctioned for it and punished for it, then they consent. Silence is agreement. And that is what they do. Christians don't. Look what happened in Christchurch. We all denounced it. Then the government goes too far, and they put on the hijabs, and they have the calls to prayer, and they take away the guns. And they're trying to do all of that here, ladies and gentlemen. We need to reject Islam out the gate. And I will be one of the ones to say it publicly, always. Islam is a tool of Satan and of the New World Order to subjugate you and to take away the perfect law of liberty. And guess what? They're going to take your sons and your daughters. They're pedophilia. They're going to do that. They're going to cut off your daughter's genitals. They're going to kill your sons because you've opened the doors to a despicable, demonic system that, for the 99 truths that tell you how good it is, they've got the one lie in there, and it's a destructive one, and I will say it publicly. God bless all those people, living and dead, that went through that. God bless all honest people that want to do the right thing. But to do the right thing, you have to speak truth to power. Not murder, not mayhem, not conquest. Study history, ladies and gentlemen, see what the Islamic people did. President Jefferson, I talked about this several videos back. The Barbary Coast Pirates, you know who they were? They were Muslims who were engaged in the slave trade, and they were seizing our ships and taking our sailors off of there and the people that were on the ships and putting them in slavery. It was the Muslims that were doing that. But we only hear about the white slavery, right? The whites that had slavery in America, which was a very small percentage. The biggest, the largest trader in slavery in the world has always been Islam for the last, 1,200 years. Yeah, I know there are others. I know. But they don't talk about the Islamic one, do they? Even in the face of what happened in Libya, what Clinton did there, with the Arab Spring and all of that, they don't talk about it. They don't talk about the slavery that's instituted there now. They don't do it because they lie. They love and make a lie. both those in power that are trying to subjugate us and the tool that they're using there in Islam. They both do it. Okay, I have to move on to, and I know a lot of you are wondering about it, but I'm hard on the FBI. I'm hard on the DOJ. Look what they've done to the president. Look what, and what if they do it to the president of the United States, they will do it to Americans, and they have. And I've been talking about it for years. And I don't want to go into all the particulars, but I know you're all wondering, or some of you are, what I think about this arrest of the militia leader on the border, who the FBI came and arrested. Isn't that just peachy? Now, one of the things that happened in order to disarm Americans was if you are, and they have different sets of laws, you can actually have your right to own a firearm taken away by the government for a misdemeanor, even for a minor domestic disturbance, even if it's in certain areas. You can't even have an argument now in a family. The violence is called if you call somebody a name. You see how they move the goalposts. It used to be if you beat somebody up, you really hurt them. Well, one of the things that they did was they make it if you're a convicted felon, you can't own a weapon. It wasn't always that way. It depended on if it was a violent felony or not. And even then, it could be changed where you could have a gun later on. But they changed all that because they're in the process of disarming Americans. Now, I don't know what this leader of this militia down there, I'm not so certain it's a good, I know Craig Sawyer, a well-trained SEAL and law enforcement officer in the past, has been on the border, and I find nothing wrong with that. Don't misunderstand me. I myself was down there covering it several years ago, as most of you know. I'm not certain that threatening the use of deadly force is a good idea. I'm not saying not to have weapons down there because you have drug cartels you got to worry about, okay? I'm not saying that. But I don't know what this leader of this militia group had in his past. It was a felony, apparently. I don't know what it was. But most felonies now aren't crimes of violence. It could have been perjury. It could have been failing to file the right paperwork. We've seen that with the process crimes that the FBI has thrown at people like Stone and General Flynn. So I don't know what he was convicted of, but being a mere felon, convicted felon, isn't enough in my mind, or in those who understand the perfect law of liberty, to deny a person self-defense, or even in this case to defend the borders of the United States of America. The fact of the matter is the FBI, as Dan Bongino says, what have they done? They refused. They refused to even investigate or indict Hillary Clinton for espionage. Proven fact. Probably responsible for the deaths of a lot of agents around the world, a lot of assets. Not to mention the theft that was involved, the secrets that were given to foreign governments. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I can go on down the list of all of those people, as you know. What did I say? The FBI hones in on the little guy. And of course, on the border, they want to discourage people from taking part in helping, like, I know that was in New Mexico apparently, but Governor Abbott of Texas put the Texas National Guard, they're building the border up with them. And it's even gotten to the point now where I guess, from what I've heard, that they're actually issuing ammunition. What does the federal government do? Nothing. I'm not finding fault with the Border Patrol or those people. I'm not. I did my news thing down there showing what they were up against, and that was in 2011, which is far worse now. No, I blame the Congress and, frankly, the president. I know the president is responsible for this being at this point, but he won't use his presidential power. So here I am, saying, "Hey, what's up, buddy?" You got a war on the border. Pull the military out of Syria, out of Afghanistan, to hell with those places. Why don't you? Well, because you buy into, for whatever reason, President Trump, the ridiculous arguments of people like Bolton and Pompeo and the military-industrial complex. No, the FBI won't go after the really bad people, But they had to make a statement to scare people to stay away from the border because the FBI is part of the IC and part of the takedown of the United States of America and the Constitutional Republic. They are a part of it. So no, they can't go get Hillary Clinton. Oh no, oh no. They go get the little people, even those that are trying to protect. And there are problems with an untrained group being on the border armed. I recognize all that FBI lackeys. But what are you doing? Nothing. Your people have even helped jihadists attack us. The Garland shooting in Texas, Las Vegas. You're a corrupt, evil, criminal enterprise. So I'm going to read an article. You know I love the conservative treehouse. That's one. And I know you guys don't like me to do this, but I have to. Okay? This is from the Washington Free Beacon. It was sent to me the other day. And I've been saying this for how many years? That the IC has been... First of all, they say, "Oh, it's just the top of the FBI that's bad in the DOJ. It's not the rank and file." No, it's not the rank and file. No matter what they did at Bundy Ranch or at Hammond's or in LV or in Garland, Texas, or now this guy on the border trying to protect us from an onslaught of invaders. I've said for years that what's happened here is leftist Marxists have infiltrated the IC and our institutions, our educational institutions, our government institutions, and particularly the IC, because I was there, I saw it. And we've done nothing to stop it. Obama funded it even more, made sure that more people were in there. I'm not saying they weren't coming in before, because they were. Here's another example of look at Brennan. He was an avowed communist. I read the thing the other day from Conservative Treehouse it's been about a week ago, about the 40 FBI agents on the Mueller team. I've talked about how the upper leadership, once the leftist Marxists got in there, they started to make sure that the people they hired, that they recruited throughout the agencies, were like them, because they're promulgating the same concepts. It's a disease. It's a virus. It's like Islam wanting to conquer. It's the same mindset, and they've been doing it for decades. And no, the rank and file isn't good, or they wouldn't be silent. They'll say, "Oh, they've got non-disclosure agreements. They'll come after them," and they have after some of the people that have opened their mouths. I've heard FBI agents say, "Well, I could say something, but am I going to throw my career away just because nothing's going to happen anyway, even if I do this?" Understood. But that's where courage comes in. That's where knowing right from wrong comes in, and that's where selflessness and the rule of law really shows up. God damn Congress for not protecting you, and I understand that. We need a house cleaning, ladies and gentlemen. We need a serious house cleaning. This was written by the Washington Free Beacon. Again, I've said this for years. It's not just in the upper echelons of these agencies. It is festering. It is what's that called? I'm so upset I'm losing my... And I do that, and I understand that. It's metastasizing. This virus, this evil of leftist Marxism is metastasizing, and it's a deliberate program. This is the Washington Free Beacon. It was written on April 18th. And I'm going to go ahead and read it. Washington Free Beacon, please excuse me for doing this, but I think it's that important. By the way, the link to this article I've placed in the description box as well. The title, U.S. Intelligence Institutionally Politicized Towards Democrats. Former CIA analyst says agencies dominated by liberals. That's not an accident. It's an infiltration of a political agenda. It's by Bill Gertz. The CIA and other U.S. intelligence agencies have become bastions of political liberals, and the pro-Democratic Party views of intelligence personnel have increased under President Donald Trump, according to a journal article by a former CIA analyst. John Gentry, who spent 12 years as a CIA analyst, criticized former senior intelligence leaders, including CIA Director John Brennan. I've called that bastard out more than once. Director of National Intelligence James Clapper, ditto. And former Deputy CIA Director Michael Morrell, ditto again. And then I could add Phil Mudd, along with former analyst Paul Pillar, for breaking decades-long prohibitions of publicly airing their liberal political views in attacking Trump. He says decades-long prohibition. It hasn't been. We can go all the way back to President Kennedy, okay? And it's always been this way. It's nothing new. It's just that we believe that these people are fighting for our freedom, and they are not. They are fighting for their own institutions and their own power. The institutional bias outlined in a lengthy article in the Quarterly International Journal of Intelligence and Counterintelligence risks undermining the role of intelligence in support of government leaders charged with making policy decisions. Gentry stopped short of saying the widespread liberal bias of intelligence officials has influenced intelligence reports and products, but I guarantee you it has, and we've seen that. However, he concludes that bias may have crept into CIA analyses. May have? This guy's hedging his bets because if he's a former CIA analyst, he's on their target list. So he's making some caveats here, but just read between the lines. A considerable body of evidence, much of it fragmentary, indicates that many CIA people have left-leaning political preferences. Brennan is a perfect example. An avowed communist in 1976. But less evidence shows that political bias influences CIA analyses, Gentry concludes. He's got to say that. But it's manifestly the case. In the past, intelligence politicization was defined as either skewing intelligence to fit biases or manipulating intelligence by those outside the intelligence community. They've done both. But in 2016, observers of U.S. intelligence, observers of U.S. intelligence began to wonder if the CIA's once firm prohibition on partisan politics had changed. It happened long before 2016. It just became relevant. It became more clear because Trump called them out. Trump revealed, he pulled the curtain back. That's what happened in 2016. Whether intentionally so or not, that's what he did. Sorry. But in 2016, observers of U.S. intelligence began to wonder if the CIA's once firm prohibition on partisan politics had changed, and to ponder whether a new kind of politicization had arisen, namely institutionally embedded partisan bias towards leftist Marxism, which the Democratic Party espouses, if you look at it. Now, I talked about, it's been about a year ago now. It was actually, because it was before the midterm elections. The CIA came out and said that they were going to start running their people on the Democratic ticket out in the open in your face. The attacks on Trump were unprecedented. Gentry points to the activities of senior retired intelligence officials. Here we go again, trying to point at just the top of the agencies when they have filled their agencies with people like themselves. Gentry points to the activities of senior retired intelligence officials during the 2016 campaign that universally criticized then-candidate Trump and supported Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton, knowing that she had done the espionage, had the server, had violated classifications, sold information to the highest bidder, pay to play, on and on and on. Why? Because they agreed with what she was doing, ladies and gentlemen. It's not an oversight. It's a plan that they are all engaged in, and that's why we're in so much danger. I hope Barr acts. I know he's got a target on his chest, and I don't know how deep he's going to go, but I don't think he's going to go very deep. The attacks on Trump were unprecedented for intelligence officers in their substance, tone, and volume. Critics went far beyond trying to correct Trump's misstatements about U.S. intelligence. They attacked him as a human being. Exactly correct. The people put Trump in there to get us out of the foreign wars, to stop the military-industrial complex from destroying our lives and the lives of our children, and the lives of people overseas, the innocents. But they couldn't have that. They couldn't. See, the war isn't even really against President Trump. It's against us. No matter whether Trump is secretly complicit with them or not, it doesn't matter. And I'm not saying that. The real war is against us. Those who don't want this nonsense any longer, who have the truth, whether they know it or not, have the Spirit of Christ and peace and love in their hearts. That's who the war is against, because that's not profitable to the powers that be. And that's not going to get rid of 99% of the population. The IC is our most dangerous domestic enemy. I've said it for years. It's on my channel. It's up there in the upper left-hand corner. The intelligence community is our most dangerous domestic enemy. It is the secret combination, the secret societies that we were warned about in the last days. Gentry, currently a professor at Georgetown and Columbia Universities, provides a detailed analysis of whether the 16-agency U.S. intelligence community and the CIA in particular have become institutional partisans supporting the Democratic Party. Okay, I won't read the whole thing. I think you get the idea. Go read that article. I think there was one other thing I wanted to... Remember, Obama sent money to the Department of Defense, set up I forget what it's called right now, but it's the Countering Foreign Propaganda Act, or whatever the heck it was, which was really just to accuse us all of being Russian agents. It was a cover. And the DOD was in on it, portions of the DOD and certainly the IC. So let me just say this. Going down to this paragraph. A politicized workforce. Politicization during the Obama administration also was evident at the Pentagon's Defense Intelligence Agency. Obviously, and General Flynn saw that, which is another reason why he got in trouble. Long criticized for its shortcomings in intelligence analysis and reporting on China's military. According to Gentry, under Obama, editors of the DIA's primary current intelligence report were notified to, get this, quote, avoid specifically identified terms that might trigger criticism of administration policy. That can even go into Islam, ladies and gentlemen. Don't call it Islamic terrorism. Islam is peace. Never look at the fruits. Never look at what their manifesto, the Quran and the Hadith say, which the SPLC, if it applied the same principles that it claims to, would find Islam as an organization to be a terrorist organization. Gentry challenged the claims of former senior intelligence analyst Tom Finger, who asserted that annual surveys found very few cases of attempted politicization. Lie, and he called it. Gentry called it. Okay, I'll let you read the rest of the report there. I won't take all that time. We've been going for, geez, how long here? Like I said, I wasn't even going to do this today. We've been going for an hour and 10 minutes. I better let you all go. Okay, he talks about, I got to say this, the U.S. government has traditionally and wisely declined to ask its job applicants and civil service employees about their political affiliations. There are other ways to do it, like John Brennan. But President Obama especially got around the policy by mandating hiring from demographic groups known to be generally pro-democratic. It's a form of affirmative action. So he got around the prohibition, whether real or not, but to make it so he could hide what he was doing, he called it an affirmative action program of sorts. A threat to the Republic. Charles Samfatis, a former CIA operations officer. See, some do speak up. Some do. And I know these people, probably like Kirchhoff, have been having a horrible time. being surveilled rather, intimidated, gang stalked. I know how they do it. Charles Sanfatis, a former CIA operations officer, said, countering politicization is a critical question. A secret service that involves itself in partisan politics is a threat to the republic, Fatis said. What have I said? The intelligence community is our most dangerous domestic enemy. Do I think CIA officers as a whole are guilty of taking sides or slanting analysis? He says no. But that's not true. Do I think we have seen seniors? See, here we go again. Now, it might be that they're talking about, the rank and file is really good because maybe they're saying maybe we can fix this at the lower levels. If we can get rid of because I've said before, right? The body rots from the head down. So if you cut the head off, the senior officials, maybe we can fix the lower ranks. Maybe, but don't bet on it. The only way that'll happen is if people like Brennan, Clapper, Hayden. Well, Hayden's had a stroke, so I guess he's out of the picture. But Clapper, Hayden, Mudd, and I could, Loretta Lynch, all of those people, they need to be charged, tried, and if found guilty, punished to the maximum extent of the law. And if that includes execution, so be it. That's the only way to fix this. Just as Judge Janine has said, just as Dan Bongino has said, just as Lou Dobbs has said, Sean Hannity, Alex Jones, Nancy Morgan Hart on Headlines with a Voice, myself, on down the line. It's not vengeance. It's that they tried to destroy us, and they will do it again unless we cut their head off. Okay. Go read that. I'm not going to bore you with the rest of that. It's very important. The link's in the description box. I've been on one today. I want to make a note here I wrote about Dan Bongino. Bongino said, this Spygate is not about Trump. Haven't I been saying that? But about the misuse and criminality of the DOJ, FBI, IC. It's revealed for all to see except those who are criminally involved with them or demons like they are. And again, it's not about Trump. It's about us. They are trying to destroy us. We can't let them do that, ladies and gentlemen. We can't let them do it. Well, I don't know if I got to any specifics, but there we go. It's been an hour and 15 minutes. Let me just look at the chat real quick. Kathy Galloway, I truly believe Jesus Christ is our own help. Well, that's true, because we have to have an inside change in heart. But we also have to be willing to call good from evil and evil from good. And if we refuse to do that because we want to be politically correct, if we buy into this, we will be destroyed. Remember, the scripture says they will call evil, in those days, they will call evil good and good evil. And if you what did I say? Criticism at first about something, then you tolerate it, then you accept it, and then you participate. And that's a little different take. There's another way to say that. It's more cliquish, I guess, more well-known saying. But that tells you the bottom line. And we have done that. We have accepted evil because we want to be Christ-like and love people, not what they do. Right? Wrong. That's one of the fallacies that we've been taught. Did Christ beat the money changers in the temple? Yeah, he did a lot more that people don't know about too. That was just one instance. But yes, we need to take that spirit of Christ in us. But we also have to be wise as serpents, as harmless as doves, but know when to demand that the sword of justice take out the demons and the evildoers. Because if you don't, this is what you end up with. That's what Islam claims it's doing. It's just taking out the evildoers. But evil to them is anybody who doesn't submit to their program. Okay, let me just run up here a little quick. And I'm sorry, I've really been verbose today. Like I said, I wasn't going to do this, but then Okay, yeah. Stack Stevenson, why did Trump remove our troops from the border? Abbott's, the governor of Texas, is sending National Guard to the border. I talked to my Republican insider about this, and I understand it anyway. But Trump plays games with people. And I don't mean us. I mean those who are opposing him. This is the explanation. So he gives them what they want so that it'll fall apart. But you see what they do anyway. They blame him. But who ends up getting, they blame him anyway. But who ends up getting hurt in the process of this game that President Trump's playing? We do. Our republic does. Our borders do. Our people do. Kate Steinle. We have enough criminals. We don't need to bring any more in. And we don't need to take the chance of bringing any more in. I've called for the military to be on the border since 2011. I think I was the first person to do it. And I told how it should be done and why. I'm going back to bed. Obviously, some people don't like what I say or how long I take to say it. I'll just say thanks for being here. I'll go ahead and go. I'm not here for followers. I'm not here for clicks. But I am grateful that President Trump recognized that I was trying to make a difference. And President Trump, I will say it again. I will stand by you in all of your righteous endeavors to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and that inviolate Bill of Rights. But I will not be silent when you don't do those things, or when you really do overuse your power by helping the empire to spread like the military-industrial complex wants, like Bolton and Pompeo are trying to do. You have the wrong advisors with you, President Trump, and a lot of us have been saying that for a long time. As my Republican insider says, he's got to go a little bit at a time. Well, I don't mind him going a little bit at a time, my friend, but I don't want him trampling on the Bill of Rights and the Constitution in any way, shape, or form during the process. Okay. I think that's it. I don't want to bore everybody, but I again, I don't care if you're here or not. I'm glad you're here if you come. I'm glad that you're here. I appreciate it. If my words are worth getting out there, even though they're verbose, you feel free to do it. All of my videos you're free to use, as I've said before. Use them any way you want. Just don't, if you're going to take clips out of it, just don't make it say something that I didn't say or intimate something I didn't mean. That's all I ask. Okay. So I'll be done for the day. I don't know if I'll be up tomorrow or not. Things have been so crazy, I'm not sure. But I guess you'll find out if I am or not. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. I had an individual write me and say, "Ro, I don't think we can stay out of the way anymore. I think we need to get involved." Look what the FBI did to that guy on the border. Oh, you're a felon, so they go down and they get him. But they do nothing to secure this country. Nothing. God bless you, God bless yours, God bless the Constitutional Republic of the United States of America and the Second American Revolution. And I'll say it today. May God bless Donald Trump and all of his righteous endeavors. Sir, you must stand by the principles of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And you must spit in the face of the intelligence community and the military-industrial complex and the democrats and the leftist Marxists who have committed crimes, seditions, and treasons against this country, against its people, and certainly against you. But I also pray that God will give you the spirit of discernment, that it may distill upon you as the dews from heaven, because gentle is how God works with us. Everything, look at the universe, how slowly plants grow, children, the slow movement of the sun. That you will know the difference between the right and the wrong and have the courage to do the right thing. Go after the enemies of the Republic, President Trump. Delay not. And they are not overseas. They are in our midst. And we must have the courage to call it out for what it is. Go after those who organized it and who took the largest part. Do not stay your hand, and Attorney General Barr, do not stay yours. I do believe that the United States, if we can repent, can return to being what it was supposed to be, a shining light to the world of the perfect law of liberty and the support of righteousness. It can be. It never quite got there, but it has the ingredients to do it. We just can't let it slip away. Thanks, everybody, for coming. I guess we'll see you next time. And remember, President Trump is going to send me a little message like that. That means that all of our efforts do make a difference, even if it's small. And your faith is like a mustard seed. The smallest little tiny thing grows into a big tree. Our efforts can make a big difference, even when we don't think they will. And even I didn't think it was, my efforts. But it can make a difference. Till next time, Godspeed.